My name is Karen Levin. I'm the Executive Director of the Baltimore Zionist District. Thank you for joining us this evening for this meaningful conversation with author Bina Kozuch. What I've grown to love most about these trying times during the Corona-19 pandemic are the wonderful people that BZD has been able to host virtually to so many near and far. Bina came to us after hearing Sammy Steigman's story a few weeks ago and graciously offered to share her mother's story with our BZD community. So we're really grateful to have you here tonight, Bina. Bina is an educator, life coach, and author. While teaching both in New York and Florida for so many years, she integrated the philosophy of self-respect, self-control, anger, courage, kindness, gratitude, and faith in Hashem. She published Triumph After All in 2018. Bina is currently completing her second book, Courage in the Face of Tyranny, 10 Testimonies of Holocaust Survivors. Bina offers a free ebook, Positive Transformations, when purchasing her book, Triumph After All. More information in Bina's books and free ebooks can be found on her website at www.askbina.com. This information will be placed in our chat and emailed after our program. With that, please welcome Bina. Thank you so much again for being here, Bina.
The Holocaust, which took place 76 years ago. What can we learn from this horrific event? Let's listen to some true facts that happened to my mother, Zichrona Livracha, Cipora Younger Kozuch. "76 years ago, I wrote her story and her encampments in the book Triumph After All. I also added historical facts relating to World War II. My mother lived in Ruskeva, Romania, in the region of Transylvania. By the way, Elie Wiesel also lived in the same region. Until 1940, the Jewish community and that small shtetl village conducted their life according to the Hasidic tradition. The wealthy family helped the needy. My grandmother, Bina, always baked extra challahs, breaded bread for the Shabbat and holidays. My mother and her sister brought them to the lower part of the village for the less affluent families. Milk, eggs, and produce of the land were also added. What you're going to hear is a song written by Aaron Lebedev and sung by him, called Romania. It is in Yiddish, the spoken language in that village. I'm sure you will experience the life and the village while listening to the music. So,
Große Weine nicht gewähnt, ein paar Genigen. Wollte ich hart für die Glitzer zu Kinder kriegen. Aber mal Riegele, ein paar Stromele, ein Karnatzele, in ein Gläser.
The translation is very short. Romania is a beautiful country. Some of the food was a pastrami and mamiliga, which was made of corn flour. Let's not forget the small little glass of wine that they used for every meal. No wonder the men were very happy the whole day. From December 20, 1940, dark clouds of despair spread over Transylvania. On that day, Hungary joined forces with the German allies. Transylvania was gifted to the Hungarians. All the Nazis' laws against the Jews were implemented immediately. As a result, my mother could no longer continue with her education. A Bachor, a young yeshiva man, was hired to teach her some of the Chumash, some of the prayers, and the Hebrew language. Those who had the land, as my grandparents, they had to give the majority of the produce to the authorities. One early morning, after Passover, in late April 1944, I will read for you the day when the village was evacuated by the Hungarian gendarme, the police. The ground underneath my feet shook. The glasses on the top shelves started their waltz. Strauss music came into my mind. Some glasses could not endure the trauma and shattered all over the kitchen floor. It was not an earthquake. What was it? Thunder was heard everywhere. There was a fierce banging on the door. Then came the deafening barking. Kimiji, Kimiji, Geroisen, go out quickly. More insults, voices were heard. You filthy Jews, out, immediately. You swine Jews. This scene will always remain buried deep in my memory, as if it took place this morning. That was the beginning of the end. The whole village was transported to Valshovice, the city that was 1 hour away from Ruskeva, and it turned into a ghetto for 1 month. From many other testimonies, we know that 10 to 15 people were crammed into one-room apartment. Food was scarce. Many rummaged through the trash cans. If one found one peel of a potato, it was a delicacy. People died from malnutrition. Dead bodies were lying on the city ground. At the end of the day, Jewish people picked up the bodies and piled them up into the wheelbarrows. The dead were thrown into a communal pit as a burial. Towards the end of May, the whole ghetto was evacuated. All marched to the train station, the cars which were designated for kettles, the ones without windows. 100 men, women, children, and babies were packed into one car. There was no food, no water, and no sanitation facilities like sink or bathroom. The Jews were treated worse than animals. Many collapsed, never to rise. So why no windows on the cars? To conceal from the world that thousands upon thousands of Jews were transported to the infamous death camps by the Germans. The train arrived to Auschwitz, Birkenau, on May 29, 1944, the second day of Shavuot, the holiday of receiving the Torah. Nearly 300,000 Jews entered the death camp. To the right, to the left, those who could not contribute to the labor force, too young, too fragile, or too old, the gas chamber awaited them. What happened to the bodies? They were shoved into the crematorium. What about the ashes? There was a group of Jewish prisoners who were referred to as Sonderkommandos. They took out the ashes and either buried them or scattered the ashes in the forest or over the vacant lots if there were any to be found, in order to conceal all the inhumane acts by the Nazis and never leak out to the outside world through any of the members of this group of prisoners. Unfortunately, they were also put to death frequently. A new group of Jewish inmates were replaced. At the age of 14 years old, my mother stood alone, all alone. All were taken away. Her parents, her sister, Chaya, of 12 years old, her brother, Mendele, of 6 years old, as well as her uncle and grandparents. My mother looked to the right, she looked to the left, and she saw that the SS officers were engaged in a conversation. Her aunt, Henya, was standing not far from her, on the left row, to be led away. She grabbed her hand, motioned to her not to say anything, and pushed her in front of her. My mother saved her aunt's life, as well as her own, by having one surviving relative with her in the next horrific camps for the next 9 months, until they arrived to Israel 2 years later. The number of Jews who survived Transylvania was only 28,000 from the 300,000. Less than 12% survived. 1 month into the slavery imposed by the Nazis, my mother saw a small note protruding from one of the bricks that she had to pick and pile for the next accommodation for the new groups of prisoners. She hid behind a pile of bricks and unfolded the paper. She looked at it, she looked at the writing, and quickly shoved it into her belt. She was anxious to find out what is the note about. At the end of the day, after the appel, the roll call, when the prisoners returned to the barracks, my mother gave the note to one of the women who spoke several languages. The language was French, and the owner of the note was a POW. The French soldier indicated that for several days he observed and noticed that she worked the whole day and did not rest nor eat anything the whole time. Food? There was one slice of stale bread a day and some black water, which was poured into a tin silver cup. Can one survive from such food? The soldier indicated that he will try to place some food for her under the same brick. For the next 2 months, this kind soul managed to hide some small packages of food, which my mother shared with her aunt and sometimes with some of the inmates in the barracks if the packages were large enough. You just heard 2 facts about survival. I believe that each person who survived the hellish places under the Nazis, Hashem, God, watched after them, intervened on their behalf, as he did with my mother and my father, Zichrono Livracha, as well. My father was also imprisoned in Auschwitz for 1.5 years at a different period of time. The main question is what kept each person alive? They lived a life cave-like. Emotionally, they could not converse, they could not show their emotion, nor express their pain, their anguish, or the will to live. Actually, those who could not tolerate the appalling treatments ran towards the barbed wire fences. Those who ran towards death did not even manage to reach their destination. A bullet entered their life, or the German Shepherd raced after their escapees. So those who remained alive, what kept them going? Hope. Hope that there must be better days to come. There must be light at the end of the tunnel. Each used whatever worked for them to keep on going. We call it resilience. That was like a healing process to avoid getting into the depth of despair. Those who believed in Hashem, in God, prayed for salvation. We read about such great faith in the Tresendat ghetto, which was located in the region of Czechoslovakia. The Germans allowed the Jews to have 2 shuls, 2 synagogues in that ghetto. On Erev Yom Kippur, the eve of the holiest day for the Jews, the Chazan, the cantor, Avraham Hellman, placed his talit on the suitcases. All the Jews were supposed to be deported to the death camps the following day. Each held one valise. The Chazan cantor sang the Kol Nidrei with the rest of the 2,000 Jews. You will hear the recording of Kol Nidrei by cantor Mo Glasman.
Bina, we can't hear.
I know that something was wrong with the Kol Nidrei.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm gonna continue. They prayed the whole night and they were weeping. At 6 in the morning, the train whistle was heard, and the train transported all the Jews to Auschwitz-Birkenau. The Chazan Avraham Hellman was murdered. What was the purpose to try and stay alive? As King David wrote in Psalm 20, verse 9, in Hebrew we read, הם קראו ונפלו, ואנחנו קמנו ונתעודד. In English, they slumped and fell, but we arose and were invigorated. We, the nation of Israel, saw many nations who wanted to annihilate us, to eliminate us, as Haman wanted. But at the end, Haman and the other perished themselves, such as the Egyptian in the story of Passover, and the Romans who destroyed the second temple in Jerusalem of the year 70 Common Era. We are the nation of Israel, alive, alive lanetzach, forever. We survived because we must continue and keep up the legacy. The morasha. The children of the survivors, as I am, and the next generation to come, we are the legacy. We all have to be the light to the nations and carry on the future, remembering and contributing to our ancestry, to the Jewish nation, to have pride in what we have been and what we are, our heritage. Through the belief in God, the fulfillment of the mitzvot, and the unity we demonstrate as one nation, Am Israel, the nation of Israel, we will survive. As individuals, we don't give up in time of despair. We have shown that we are a courageous nation. History has verified it. And continuously we see it. We learn to look at the small things around us in a positive way. We need to learn to appreciate what we have. Our dwelling, family, friends, our leaders, and the community we are surrounded with. Every minute is an opportunity to reach out. It is a gift of giving. And in return, a gift as well for yourself. We refer to it as kindness. The message from the Holocaust survivors: any acts of evil, as I described, and as you heard from other survivors, I'm sure, should never be allowed to be repeated towards any group, no matter their religion, color, or belief. We must remember and never forget the 6.5 million Jews who were murdered and burned in the ovens. Those facts must be told. That task has shifted to my generation and the future ones to come. To forget them is as if we are killing them. Elie Wiesel's words, a message to all of us and to the next generations. Never again. We stay united under any adversity. Unity wins. We just saw how Hashem intervened in time of adversity. I wish to conclude with a very important true facts, which we are witnessing now during our time of the COVID-19, the dire situation we are in. I'm sure after hearing that, your notion will brighten up about our topic today, from the Holocaust to our time to the present day. History is connected, the past into the present and into the future. At the outbreak of World War II, in the city of Thessaloniki in Greece, a vibrant Jewish community flourished. They even had the port closed on Shabbat and holidays. As Hitler wanted to invade Russia, he defeated Greece first. 50,000 Jews were exterminated in Auschwitz from the 60,000 Jews. Few survived. Among them was the Burla family. In 1961, a son was born named Israel Avraham Albert. This young man studied veterinary medicine. He received his doctorate in reproductive biotechnology from Aristotle University of Salonika, Greece. At the age of 34, he moved to the United States. He married a Jewish woman named Miriam and bore 2 children. Albert Burla integrated into the medical industry. He joined the Pfizer company. He became head of the global vaccine. After a short while, in 2019, he became the CEO of Pfizer. He led the company to find the vaccine for the COVID-19. That vaccine that saved and will continue to save millions of people, even in Germany, the country that destroyed his grandparents' place and annihilated 50,000 Jews. You just heard another true fact. In time of desperation, God will show his power. We Jews are the light to the nations. As Hashem, God chose us to be. We are the legacy. You, me, and Dr. Burla, and the next generations. I'm going to conclude with a recording of Oseh Shalom Bimromav. The voice you will hear explaining the title is of our beloved teacher, Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sachs, who passed away on Shabbat, November 7, 2020. Yehi Shmo Mevorach. May his memory be blessed. In the background are the voices of the children. They are the next generation. Oseh Shalom Bimromav. We're trying.
excited that something great has happened, we have to sing a song to Hashem. And the best song we can possibly sing is Oseh Shalom Bimramav Yaseh Shalom Aleinu. We want just one thing above all, for Israel, for the Jewish people, for the world, that there should be peace. Again. Oseh Shalom Bimramav Yaseh Shalom Shalom Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael V'al Kol Yisrael V'yimaru Amen. Oseh Shalom Bimromav Yaseh Shalom Shalom Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael V'al Kol Yisrael V'yimaru Amen. Oseh Shalom Shalom Bimromav Yaseh Shalom Shalom Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael V'al Kol Yisrael V'yimaru Amen.
Thank you, everybody, for giving me the time.
Thank you, Bina. Thank you so much. I think that was very emotional, very inspiring. I thank you so much from myself, from Adi, from Rachel, from everybody at BZD, everybody on the call. I think that each of us from every generation really should have a part in teaching about the Holocaust, whether it be, I know I saw Sammy on the call, who was a Holocaust survivor who spoke with us just a couple of weeks ago. So whether it be Holocaust survivors who are still with us, who were taking, there's Sammy right there. Hi, Sammy. Whether it be Holocaust survivors who are still with us, who are really taking part and educating people, and whether it be like you, Bina, children of Holocaust survivors who are sharing their parents' stories and writing books, and whether it be people like me, professionals working in Jewish organizations who are working to educate people, not just in Baltimore where I am, but people all over the country and all over the world. And Adi, who works with us, who is with us here right now in the United States, but is really here from Israel and really working hard to educate to educate us here in Baltimore about not just things in Israel, but all things Holocaust and Holocaust denial, and something that we work very hard for in the Baltimore Zionist District, because it is such a something that is very sad that is going on right now, along with anti-Semitism. So we want to thank you again for being here. Of course, we do have your book that we will send out, Triumph After All, to everybody. And I agree with Hazel, making sure that our local schools are teaching about the Holocaust as part of their curriculum, which is a very big deal, Hazel, and you're right. And really, I really want to, not to put pressure on everybody on the call, but it is something that we should be talking to our local federations about. And we have, our associated here, and I'm sure you have a federation, Bina is down in Florida, but really something that we should all be working with together with our local federations and larger agencies to work together as Jewish organizations to make sure that we do work with our schools and our Hebrew schools and our public schools, really, so that everybody's educated on Holocaust.
Actually, in Florida, where I reside, it's compulsory to teach about the Holocaust.
Yeah.
It's part of the program.
Yeah, here in Baltimore.
And we have many of the survivors who go to the schools and they speak. And well, they spoke before the COVID, of course. And I was lucky enough, as I said, I interviewed 10 survivors, and I wanted to interview more, but because of the COVID, I couldn't. And through the phone, it's very difficult. And I compiled the story. This is gonna be my next book, which is so important to let everybody know. They are dwindling away, and we need, as I mentioned, we need the next generation to continue their legacy. We are the legacy, they were the legacy, and we need to continue and spread their story. Now, what's special about the book, that the Triumph After All, my mother was a chef, and I have recipes after every chapter that really relates to every story. So I think that will be encouraging too. And I want you to know that the proceeds go, you mentioned anti-Semitism, the proceeds go to Stand With Us. I support this group. They are teaching, they're going to their high schools and colleges to teach the students how to cope with anti-Semitism.
Great.
And I meet with them, I speak with them, and it's a very, very important course.
Great. We love Stand With Us. We have a Stand With Us chapter here. We work with Nathan, who is our local Stand With Us high school coordinator. So we absolutely love Stand With Us. We work very closely with our local Stand With Us rep. Yes, I'm so glad to hear that, and thank you for doing that and giving the proceeds to such a wonderful organization that really works with high school and college age children, which are really important right now to work with these. It all starts with education with our young adults who really need it right now on a very significant level. So we do appreciate that, and thank you for that, of course.
Exactly. Yeah.